Well, we have the first of three Marvel movies in 2025. Let's talk about that. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Captain America Brave New World. This film is directed by Julius Onah. All right, so here we have the first official movie in the MCU in quite some time. You can go Deadpool Wolverine if you want as a MCU movie, but it's a weird kind of subject when it comes to that. But the last one was, of course, the Marvels. It didn't do very well. It wasn't a very good movie. So here we have Anthony Mackie coming back as, of course, Sam Wilson, of course, as Captain America. He's now taken up the mantle. He, of course, came off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We also have Danny Ramirez, who comes in here as the new Falcon. And then we, of course, have Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross, who is now the president. Well, the president introduces something, because this is going to be as non-spoiler as possible. He gets attacked by some super soldiers, and Sam Wilson has to uncover the mystery of who is causing this, which leads to people like Gincarlo Esposito, and leads to other characters you may or may not know. And then it becomes a espionage thriller, similar to like Winter Soldier in a lot of respects. But once again, it is the introduction, really kind of the introduction in the movie world of Sam Wilson as Captain America now that Steve Rogers is no longer Captain America. So yeah, it's a espionage thriller that is in essence them trying to figure out who tried to kill the president. So it is difficult going into the MCU knowing that it's problems that it's had in the past. It hasn't been a really great couple of phases, to be fairly honest. I think the last movie I truly really liked was Shang-Chi. I know a lot of people like Guardians 3, but that was like the end of an era for Guardians more than it was a continuation of the MCU. This really feels like the next new step in this MCU phase. Now that we have like Thunderbolts and of course, Fantastic Four coming out, we all know that that's kind of what the lineup for 2025 is. But the unfortunate nature of this film in this movie is it has to introduce us to a new Captain America, but also keep Sam Wilson, who has been with us since, of course, Winter Soldier, as a kind of a leader in a lot of respects, which is what Sam Wilson kind of wasn't. He was kind of behind. But with him and Bucky and stuff like that, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he has to take the mantle at some point. So on top of everything, William Hurt passed away. Now we have Harrison Ford taking over the role. This is like the third Thaddeus Ross. And I've been hearing really not great things about this movie, to be fairly honest. It is what it is. Unfortunately, I hear much better things about Thunderbolts. But I want to be optimistic. I want to feel like these movies, and this is the 35th film in this franchise, are going to find some alignment at some point. So after seeing this movie, now that the reviews are coming out, I'm really interested to see what people think of this movie. Because to be fairly honest, in my honest review of this movie, it's pretty bad. It's not a very good movie. It has some positives I will get into in a second. But the one thing that I noticed about this movie, and the one thing that is really kind of a little bit of bothersome, is how many writers are involved with this movie. I know this had a lot of reshoots. I know it's gone through a lot of phases when it comes to the movie itself. It was supposed to come out a while ago, and maybe the strikes kind of caused some issues with it. But the nature of this movie and the amount of writers that it has, and probably the amount of cooks in the kitchen that this movie has, and the nature of what this movie is doing, which if you've seen the trailer, it reintroduces something that people have been complaining about for quite a while since a movie called The Eternals came out. It's a movie that is what I would call the structural problem of people not understanding script 101. And what I mean by that is I understand scripting and script writing. I know it's very difficult. You have to keep a certain cadence and a certain pace. You have to make characters have certain beats and they have to be realistic when they talk. But the one thing that characters shouldn't do, and one thing that this does in spades, and not in a good way, is how the characters talk over one another. It's really kind of telling how much this feels rushed. And what I mean by that is you'll have one character in this movie talk, and then the character that is responding will talk like literally 10 milliseconds later. So it's overlapping this, like they're talking about, let's say, this character is doing this, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I know he's doing that. It's like, it's unnatural, like dialogue talking. And it really feels like there is so much of that. And so it's so out of place and so weird that it feels like a very unnatural movie. And it feels like a very, a very unwell put together movie in a lot of respects, and there's nothing that feels very cohesively whole and flows very well in this movie. It just feels like characters are kind of just throwing exposition out there, and then the other character just responds really quickly. And you got to give the character and the motivations a little bit of time and a little bit of essence of like humanity when they respond. Not very wooden, which is what this movie is. It's very wooden, and when it comes to its storytelling, when it comes to its character dialogue and character developments. Another major issue of this movie is, if you have not seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, some of the characters in this movie, including Danny Ramirez, who plays the new Falcon, will seem kind of out of place because this movie doesn't have an beginning, and it doesn't really have an ending. It just kind of goes, so it feels like the next part of that miniseries. So though it's bigger and it has a bigger budget and it's more expensive and the action is much more grand, it really does feel like a continuation of that not great series. And I felt that was kind of a little bit out of place. You know, if you're going to introduce this world, you have to have some kind of allowing the story to play out naturally, and it doesn't. It feels like you need something else to attach to it to make it make sense. And then once again, it leans into other movies and other things that you may realize come out of nowhere. It introduces us to interesting characters and stuff like that have like they'll lead into other stories of the MCU that you almost have to like remember stuff about the MCU that you may have forgotten about, and that's also a problem. It's one of those things that this movie really struggles to hold and really struggles to deal with, is the simple fact that, you know, General Ross, Thaddeus Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, is now the president, and there's a reason he's the president, and there's something that he does in this movie that is bringing in something new or something that you know before, and it really struggles to even have him as a character. And there's a lot of that going on where it just feels really out of place and really unconstructive when it tries to do it. And like the character motivations, the way that this movie yada everything when it comes to like the president having a cell phone, or one of the secret services having 3 earrings, or the fact that characters just kind of show up here or there, just kind of why they show up. It's the nature of like how the story is written, and it just feels like, once again, if you look at all the screenwriters, there is too many screenwriters for this movie. And therefore, I felt the movie just was very haphazardly rushed. It really is. It attempts to be a Winter Soldier, but feels more like a B grade attempt to be Winter Soldier. And it follows beats, especially when Gincarlo Esposito pops up. There is another character that follows him that is very similar to like the Black Widow character when it comes to Winter Soldier. There's a shootout that feels very similar that is in the trailer. The end sequences feels very similar to, of course, of Winter Soldier. It's really aping Winter Soldier in its nature because it is an espionage thriller. And I don't know. I didn't find that interesting at all. I didn't find these characters interesting. I think Harrison Ford, and if you watch it and you know his history of like how people approach him with this movie, it is kind of like nonchalant and whatever. I don't know. Red Hulk. What the heck is that? You really get the understanding of like how Harrison Ford just feels like he's just kind of going through the motions. It's really kind of sad, to be fairly honest. I think Julius Onah tries his very best to make a decent film, but he is struggling under the weight of a very bad script. He doesn't feel like he has a hold of this script. I think the cinematography for this movie, outside the action sequences, are very bland and they don't feel well shot. They don't feel well lit. The action sequences that aren't like the big set pieces feel very, very bland, to be fairly honest. And I don't know. I don't know what ended up happening here, but it's really telling that this movie just falters, and once again proves that there is something truly wrong with the MCU that I hope the next 2 movies fix, because if it's going to continue this route, it just makes you wonder why you're even accepting or trying to enjoy these movies, because they're not enjoyable in the least. And like I said, in its one end credit sequence, it's like people that have been following the MCU or kind of know where it's headed, know kind of what it's leaning into. It's so obtuse in what it tries to attempt, that is this movie in general, that it really feels out of place. And I don't know. Once again, it does follow the typical beats of an MCU movie. It's problematic, to be fairly honest. It really is. But what I can say that is positive, I am trying to stay positive when it comes to this. I'm attempting to when it comes to MCU because I'm kind of I'm really disenchanted by this franchise. Is I think the action sequences, especially the action sequence you saw in the trailer that might include, you know, something from the Eternals that people have been complaining about, is really top notch. I think it's really well done. You know, of course it's Weta and ILM working on the scene and stuff like that, but I think it's thrilling. I think they do some really interesting things with it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, to be fairly honest, why they're doing this, because of what it could start when it comes to with international war. You'll understand when you see it, but I think it is really thrilling. I think it has a lot of fun. I think it attempts to be a really cool action sequence, and I think it does work. I think the Red Hulk stuff, as brief as it is a lot of fun. I think it's really interesting. It raises a lot of questions about morality and what these superhero characters can do. But once again, Harrison Ford, like when he's there on the screen, is just really weird. You know, I don't know. I liked William Hurt as Thaddeus Ross, but unfortunately passed away. So you got to have somebody. And why Harrison Ford wanted to do this, I have no idea. But where I stand, you know, because it's a long review, but where I stand with this movie is it's really a disappointment. It's really one of those movies that you'll enjoy the action, but when it comes to the storytelling, when it comes to what this meaning behind Sam Wilson as an inspired figure, what it means as a story in general, it's one of the lower tier Marvel movies. It really is unfortunate attempt by the director and the 16 writers, it seems like, to make a competent espionage thriller. It just doesn't work. Once again, if 3 Days of the Condor or The Conversation is Winter Soldier, this feels like something like an Adam Sandler movie would make, to be fairly honest. That's just kind of how it rolls. But once again, it is a new Marvel movie, so take that for what it's worth. A lot of people, I'm sure, will see it. We'll see how it does at the box office, which I don't think it'll do very well. But yeah, that's Captain America: Brave New World, now in theaters, non-spoiler edition. So there you go. But once again, before you hit the comments, just to let you know, there is one credit scene that I saw. It's at the very end of the movie, so be aware of that. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what do you think of this movie if you've seen it? Once again, if there's spoilers, I apologize. You know, just don't read the comments until you see the movie yourself. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie, or are you looking forward to it, all that good stuff. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this video, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top of the what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.